Let's go ahead and get started. Start recording. Recording in progress. Well, good evening, everyone. This is Landon for December 18th, 2024. Can you take attendance, please? Michael Gore? Here. Robert Romer? Here. Michael Lau? Here. Austin Broner? Here. James Barr? Here. And Eric Nyland is absent. Yeah, Eric Nyland. Okay, the first item on the agenda tonight is a public hearing to amend the special permit for United Cultivation for 76 Main Street. We have someone representing the applicant here. Yes, good evening. This is Mike Spangler, CEO of United Cultivation. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah, we can hear you. All right, I'm sitting in my car, so I apologize. I'm outside of a hockey rink ready to jump in when we wrap up, but I wanted to make sure I attended. Can you just kind of briefly summarize what you're looking for? Sure. So we've now been open for our third month. We're looking, given the traffic in the plaza, what we're looking to do is see if the board will consider. Oh, sorry. Yeah, Pam, do you have to read something? Yeah, I have to read the hearing. Sorry, I was on mute. I was on mute announcing it. Sorry. In accordance with MGL Chapter 48, Section 11, a notice is hereby given that the Bolton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, December 18th, 7 p.m. via Zoom video communications to hear and act upon the application of UC Retail LLC for property owned by Hood Realty Group. The applicant is seeking to amend a special permit to change the approved hours of operation of United Cultivation to match the operating hours of the retail establishment in the plaza, identified by Assessor's Map 4D, Parcel 61, located at 476 Main Street. The application and plans are available for review online at the website. This public hearing will be conducted via remote participation pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting MGL 30A, Section 18, and then following is login information and the website for the Zoom meeting. Okay, sorry about that, Mike. Go ahead, Mike. Yeah, sure. So, thank you. So, basically, we're hoping that the board will consider allowing us to augment our current hours of operation that we have our special permit for. The reason is we'd like to mirror the other retail establishments in the plaza, particularly the Country Covered. We do not intend to open at 5 a.m. when they open up, but would like the ability to, based on seasonality or demand, have the opportunity to adjust our hours based on staffing moving forward. The plaza does have a fair amount of traffic from the 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock a.m. hour, and we miss quite a bit of that traffic opening at 10 o'clock. So, talking with the general managers, they've asked, based on some customer feedback, if there's any opportunity for us to open earlier to allow the potential to drive more customers in the morning. So, current operating hours are for United Cultivation are Monday through Saturday, 10 to 9. I'm sorry, this is what your permit is for. Is this what your operating hours are currently, 10 to 9? They match the current permit, so 10 to 9 Monday through Saturday and 12 to 6 on Sunday. Okay. And so this would be moving from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. through 10 p.m. on Saturday, and Sunday, 6 a.m. through 9 p.m. Correct. Yeah, it would just allow us to have some guardrails on extending the hours if we choose to, based on seasonality and demand. And Pam, I know you reached out to Chief of Police and some of the other people in town, and they were okay with this. Yeah, just to clarify, the hours you read are for the Country Covered hours of operation, but the hours requested to be amended on the application are Monday through Sunday, 5 a.m. to
10 p.m.
So you want 5 through 10 all days of the week. Okay. So I think keeping those hours in line with what Country Covered certainly has makes a little more sense. Are you okay with that, Mike? Yeah, sure. I only pulled the 5 a.m. to 10. I didn't look at their weekend hours, so that's why I'm not sure if I could. Yeah, of course. Okay. Thanks for that, Pam. Sorry, Pam, you reached out to um, chief of police, some other people in town, and got no negative feedback on this.
No, the request was distributed to all town departments, and no one had any comments. I specifically reached out to the police chief to get his feedback, and he responded with a comment that he had no issues with the request for extension of hours.
Any members on the board have discussion or questions? One quick comment is, I don't think this really had any impact on traffic, right? Obviously, what we're trying to do here is just to, capture some of the business of people already coming to the Country Covered. It's my understanding from what you said. So, yes, correct. This makes sense stated. But I just wanted to, talk about the traffic aspect of it, in my opinion. No, I agree with that. I think in general, I haven't heard from anyone in the town government or in the town about additional traffic problems that United Cultivation has had there. Pam, I don't know if you've heard any issues.
I have not. The existing special permit does require the applicant submit a traffic analysis 6 months after they opened, which was, I believe, October of 2024.
Open in October 2024, so that April timeframe.
Yeah.
Anyone else on the board have comments or questions? No. I'm not sure if we have anyone in the audience who has questions. Hearing none. I think it makes sense to give you guys the best opportunity to succeed in your business there, and so if giving you the increased hours helps with that, then I think we're happy to do that. Pam, is this a permanent thing? Is this a thing that we could revisit if it were ever an issue?
If it's part of a decision that where you're waiving, it would be permanent. So because we have to record a new decision, so any amendment to it would require a new public hearing.
Okay, so if there's no other comments or questions, I will make a motion to close the hearing.
Michael Gore.
Aye.
Robert Romer.
Aye.
Austin Groner.
Aye.
Michael Lau.
Aye.
James Barr.
Pam, how do you want me to make this motion? Or you want me to specify the hours?
Yes, I would suggest it as part of the approval.
Okay. So
there's a sample on the screen. If you want to amend it in any way, of course, feel free. It's just a recommendation.
I will move to approve the application of United Cultivation LLC for an amendment to the existing special permit decision approving the operation of a marijuana establishment located at 476 Main Street dated July 19th, 2023, incorporating the following amendment to the findings of fact. Findings of fact condition 1H is hereby amended to read as follows. The hours of operation of a marijuana retailer shall be limited to Monday through Saturday. So this still has so Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. through 10 p.m., Saturday, 6 a.m. through 10 p.m., and Sunday, 6 a.m. through 9 p.m. All of the conditions included in the special permit approval dated 2023 recorded in the Worcester County Registry of Deeds shall It's been going good. We expected like a 3 to 6 month ramp up, so every week it's getting a little bit better. I think there's been minimal impact on parking and traffic, although we will exercise that traffic study that's required. But no, I think it's been good, well received. Our customer base continues to grow, and I think this will go a long way to help us, capture any potential more opportunity. So I appreciate your consideration, and I hope you all have a great holiday and a safe holiday, and we'll see you soon.
Great. You too, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is another joint public hearing between the tree warden, planning board for scenic road public shade application of National Grid. Can you read the?
In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 87, Public Shade Tree Law, Section 3, cutting of public shade trees, hearing damages, and MGL, Chapter 40, Section 15C, scenic roads, and Section 250-24 of the Bolton zoning bylaw, Town of Bolton Tree Warden and Planning Board will hold a joint public hearing, but it's not quite 7:15 yet. Public hearing on Wednesday, December 18th, 2024 at 7:15 via Zoom Communications regarding an application from National Grid Hazard Tree Mitigation Program for the proposed removal of 43 town-owned trees and pruning of 3 town-owned trees along Wattaquatic Hill Road, Berlin Road, South Bolton Road, Main Street, and East End Road. The application and plans are available for review at the Town Hall, 663 Main Street, between the hours of Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, 9 to 2:30, and Tuesday, 9 to 4, and on the town's website. Trees proposed to be removed included the following, and there's a long list of trees provided.
Mark here. Do you want to give a quick or not so quick overview?
Sure. So, this isn't the first time that we've had a hazardous tree remediation come through town. It's probably like the second or third time. It's been a great help to us in the past to get rid of some of these hazard trees that we would not be able to remove with the limited funds that we have set aside. This whole list has been brought forth by Bill McKay, who has first contacted me in early August. Actually, it was August 2nd. So he had already put this list together prior to August, going tree for tree on all these routes. And then he and I, countless phone calls, visiting tree for tree more than one time. So we narrowed down these 47 trees that do all have defects and pose hazards that need just to be addressed.
They did provide a slideshow of photos of the trees if the board's interested in going through any of them. I can share them on screen.
Maybe, I mean, I'm okay if the tree warden, National Grid have screens.
I also mentioned that, there are a few larger trees on this list, but there's quite a few of 10, 12, 14-inch trees. It's not all just big, old, stately trees. There's some that are just either dead, dying, bad names. I mean, I'm looking at the list here. I didn't make the list because it's a dead tree, but it's only a 9-inch tree. So anything that's on those sections of circuit that jeopardize their wires, that's only on the list.
If anyone on the board wants to see the slideshow, let us know.
So some of the trees don't necessarily fall within the town right away of the roadway. Like there's a section where the power lines run through Memorial Field that don't feed the backside of Emerson School. So there's trees within that made the list as well. So any trees that were on town property that I didn't feel confident in condemning are on this list. And it's quite a few miles of roadway, so to narrow it down to those 40-something trees. It's
So you said trees that aren't on town property, so
this is the list. The list that has been brought forth are trees that are on town property, not necessarily on town right away, but like I said, along around the field and stuff like that.
okay, great.
Conservation land as well.
Any questions, comments from the board?
Canopies going on private property at all? Access to the RP from public right away? Only? I'm gonna let National Grid answer that because there is a couple of trees that would probably be, and anything that's impacting private trees, you don't see that on this list. And anything that's gonna be done on private property is between National Grid and the homeowner, all which have been talked about each individual homeowner. It has been either cleared or declined, and I fully understand that there was one decline, there was a trimming, and now they're come back around and saying yes, we'll allow the trimming. My name is Joseph Kay. I'm a supervisor for the Hazard Tree Mitigation Program for National Grid. I'd like to just give a quick introduction on the program, as Mark said, we've come through town a few times in the past. Basically, the Hazard Tree Mitigation Program targets circuits that are experiencing a high number of tree-related outages. We track reliability based on duration and also the frequency of outages. We target the circuits that are within about 10% in the state of Massachusetts. This circuit is the 26806, which did make that bottom 10% list. When we are notifying property owners for public or for private trees, we do seek their authorization, even if it is a publicly owned tree. That way they're aware of the work that's taking place adjacent to their property. As the closest abutter, they experience the greatest reward or potentially the greatest risk from the town-owned trees as well. Regarding work, like if we needed to access trees from private property, that would be something that would be negotiated with the private property owner. The majority of time, we try to access those trees from the road layout. But if we needed to use a driver or something, all of that is communicated ahead of time, and the customers know what to expect. So, if you have any other questions, I'd be happy to answer. I'd like just to add that circuit that you're talking about covers numerous towns. It's like Clinton, Lancaster, Stowe. It's not just Bolton. So it has encompassed quite a few towns and really helping out some of our local communities. And just to add on that too, so it is, this project entails about 14 miles, just over 14 miles. Like Mark said, it's covering Bolton, Stowe, up to Harvard. As far as mileage in the town of Bolton, the majority of our work actually is in Bolton. So it's probably 8 or 9 miles, I would estimate. But again, so it feeds a vast number of customers, and we're hoping to just improve reliability for the residents of these towns.
This is Mark. This is no cost to Bolton. This is all this work done by National Grid.
That is correct.
Even better. Any other questions or comments from board members?
Just one very quick one. So I did get a chance to look at the full list. And I think of all the trees, were there all the names? Were there any trees, I think you said? That is correct, yep. So of the list of 46 trees, 43 were proposed for removal, and 3 were proposed for trees. And if you did field check, all these trees that we're discussing tonight have been tagged with red ribbon as they are proposing removal, and also posted with the label notice as well. Thank you.
Anyone else? I don't believe we have anyone from the public, but if anyone from the public wishes to comment. Hearing none, I will make a motion to close the joint public hearing for the Scenic Road Public Shade Tree application of National Grid. Second?
Michael Gore,
Aye.
Robert Romer, Michael Lau,
Aye.
Austin Broner,
Aye.
James Barr.
Aye.
The hearing is closed.
Thank you all very much. Well, hang on one second. So I will make a motion to approve the removal of the 46 public shade trees on Wattaquatic, Hill Road, Berlin Road, South Bolton Road, Main Street, and East End Road as specified by the tree warden and National. Thank you.
Michael Gore,
Aye.
Robert Romer,
Aye.
Michael Lau,
Aye.
Austin Broner,
Aye.
James Barr.
Aye.
The application is approved by a vote of 5 to 0.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, everybody. Happy holidays. Holidays. We'll talk to you later. Next item on the agenda is continuation of bylaw reviews. So, Pam, I saw you cleaned up the phosphid and cottage overlay.
Yes.
Okay, so I know we went through phosphor last time. Do we have? So what's left to do on that? I think some of the setbacks we want to talk about right now.
Yeah, let me. I don't recall wanting to talk about the setbacks.
Well, or just that the dimensional requirements table that we have.
Yeah,
Some stuff.
we had allowed for lots with shared septics. Oh. Is it yeah, okay, sorry. We had allowed for lots with shared septics to go down to 20,000 feet. So at the end of the bylaw, I posed some questions that came up at the last meeting. A lot of them will have to be, we'll have to reach out to Bill Brookings because they're Title V related issues. One of them was if we wanted to retain the reduced lot size for the shared systems, and if so, we need to define what a shared system is and what would qualify for the reduced lot size. So if we're going to allow it for 2 lots that share one system, we need to just be clear about how we're going to interpret that. And then we needed to talk to Bill Brookings a little more about the impact the reduced lot sizes will have on well locations at the 20,000 square foot lot size. And we questioned whether shared septic systems should be permitted in the open space areas. I think our ultimate decision on that for the phosphoric was no. And then, or we could allow them in the shared system and make them part of that 25% of the 50% of wetlands and floodplain restrictions, just so the total couldn't be more than 25% of the open space. But I think we ultimately decided not to allow that. Yeah, I think we said that basically, you're effectively going and tearing up whatever that space is in order to put the septic in. So you're kind of, even though it ends up as open space, you're destroying anything that was there in order to put in the septic. So probably not what we really are intending. Yeah, I think, Mike, I think we need to revisit the whole situation with location of wells and septic systems with Bill before we make approved decisions. Because at 20,000 square feet, it may not be really viable to have a shared system in a well on the same pair of lots. Can you remember what the lot, I don't know if they call them lot sizes at the Sugar Road 40 development? How big those lot sizes were? They didn't create lots for that. They're all on a parcel. I can't recall the parcel size, but I do have access to it if you want me to look it up.
is it like 20,000, 30,000, something around there?
I don't know what it turns out to be per unit. I can look into that.
That's the one across from Colonial Candies, right?
Yeah, the units are
They're like
developed
shaped.
in a condo style development on common property.
Right, right. So we're going for a different approach to this, and I do think it's worthwhile having that conversation with Bill Brookings to find out how realistic our approach is.
I think the intent was to get it in the reformat it, get a good draft going before we distributed it to anyone, and then now distribute it for comment.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would plan to send it out to Conservation Commission, local the Conservation Trust, Bill Brookings, and then after we get some sort of professional staff input, distribute it to the development community and out to the public.
Yeah, along with Bill Brookings, I get the Board of Health in there.
Yeah.
So do we, on that, back to that table with the private and septic, or private and shared septic, do we need to fill in those last 2 values? Are we waiting for something on those? Or is that just?
For the side setbacks, is that what it?
Also the frontage, and
yeah, it didn't. We didn't include anything.
as in no minimum required, or just not required.
We didn't have any suggestions for the setbacks. I think we said 20 feet between the buildings is what was in here for common property, but we didn't discuss the 20-foot shared septic setbacks yet.
So that's the setback, but like, yeah, no, the frontage.
The frontage? Yeah.
Is that what you mean by setback?
I'm sorry, no. The frontage we didn't discuss. The 40,000 square feet, they allowed 25, and we didn't get into the frontage for the shared septic lots.
Oh, should it be any different?
Well, that's what I was wondering. I didn't think it would be.
I'm trying to picture this. I'm not sure. So the frontage and feet is a minimum requirement in order to have a shared septic for that particular cell, right? Well, it's what the lot, the frontage of the lot size needs to be as if you have a shared septic. And 25 feet, I mean, that's the width of the house, probably. Yeah, so the frontage is, based on one of the public roads. So what does that have to do with the septic? I guess.
Well, we allowed. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
We just allowed smaller lot size, so we have to determine how much frontage we want for the smaller lot size. It'll be more difficult to do kind of the T-shaped lots or whatever they're referred to. As with such a smaller lot size requirement, it's easier to do a minimum frontage and then expand the lot in the back. But when you only have a 20,000 square foot lot, that 25 feet is going to be more difficult.
I see. So it's kind of like a proxy for, the overall size and shape of the lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And if we want typical rectangular square shaped lots, we can use the frontage requirement to dictate the layout of those.
The lot width is the front to back. Is that? Or
lot width is the width of the lot and the front yard setback.
And it flares out from the frontage.
Right, and Randall suggested 80 feet of lot width. I wouldn't make it different from the frontage, really, because then you'll have not for a lot that size, 20,000 square feet.
Well, that's where I'm confused. I mean, the frontage on the 20,000 square foot lot has to be 25 feet or smaller, right? So where
No,
does
we
the
didn't. We didn't dictate. This was Randall's suggestions that we took from his bylaw, so we didn't dictate frontage for the shared. He didn't dictate frontage for the shared septic, but he had a lot with suggestion of 80, so I assume it would apply to both. But we didn't really get into that requirement at all. There is no lot width requirement under our existing Fosburn for the 40,000 square foot lot requirement.
Can you clarify that with him? That's a little confusing. And should it be a lot length?
The width?
That is, I think with these small lots, it's weird that you would. I mean, I would think that the lot size would be fairly rectangular when we're talking about small sizes like this. Where it's weird to think of 25 feet of frontage, but then it flaring out to 80 feet at some point. That seems weird. Yeah.
Well, I don't think we would. We didn't dictate the frontage for the 20,000.
Yeah.
That's up for.
I think the intent there is just it's harder to place a shared septic system for a smaller lot.
Well, the shared septic system would be on commonly owned property, not on the 20,000 square foot lots. That's why the lot sizes are reduced. And that's part of what we need to define with after we talk to Bill a little more.
Okay, I thought.
That was my understanding of the intention.
Okay.
Allow a smaller lot size for a shared system on common property.
Yes. I see. But again, I think I'm thinking width of you look at the front of your house and that's the left to right is the width of it. But are you saying that 80 feet? See, that's what I don't understand. How can that be the? I guess I'm
80
looking
feet.
at the.
Lot width is meant to keep a uniform shape and not have a lot, create a wide, have a wide amount of frontage to meet the zoning, but then drastically decrease after you have your street frontage. So the lot width is defined, I think, 100 feet back. You have to have the way it is under the zoning bylaw. You have to have a defined lot width, and so it was suggested as 80 in this bylaw.
So I'm looking at Brigham Farm just from Google Earth and trying to figure out what 80 feet would be with that. It seems way bigger than what it is, but I guess it.
80 would be a lot for a 20,000 square foot lot. Maybe it's.
But that would mean that the maximum width of the house plus the garage would have to be 50 feet or less with sidewalk clearance of 15 feet, right? A width of 80.
Yeah, that seems manageable. I'm sorry, Austin, what's that?
No, I was just trying to do a quick calculation. I was going to say that 80, the minimum block width of 80 is kind of constraining it to be fairly rectangular, fairly square, given 20,000 square feet, but I don't think that that's true. Well, I guess 80 squared is 16,000, right? Oh, no, that's 16, what is it? It doesn't have to be square, right? I can get wider towards the back end of the property. Well, what I was saying is if 80 squared is close to 20,000 square feet, and the lot size is 20,000, it basically constrains it to be close to square, but I don't think that's the case. 80 squared is 6,400, so yeah. There can be some variation in the shape of it. It's not going to be always square. it could be twice as deep as it is wide. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But again, that would, in the narrowest width of 80 feet, I'm sorry, the maximum width of 80 feet, that would mean, as I said before, that the total width of the house plus garage could be a maximum of 50 feet. Yeah, so if that was the, well, you need to have 15 feet on the other side. Right. Yeah. I was just gonna say, it can also be, it can be like a 3-to-1 ratio. It could be 3 times as thick as it is wide. So that's 19,200 square feet.
Here's this is Randall's memo. Minimum lot was. He suggested 15,000 square feet, but we increased it to 20.
Wait, what was, so he's getting 2 values, and what are they?
This is for the standard 40,000 square foot
Okay.
phosphor lot.
80 was for 15,000.
Yeah.
84 was also a minimum, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Well, what's a side setback? I didn't see that in the table. Yeah, it's in the table in the last column.
Yeah, I just.
What it is, like that's the clearance between you and your neighboring lot from where your house goes. Is that what you're asking? I believe so, yeah. Is it on our table? Okay, so I see there. Side, something, okay. So that's the
Our current side yard setback is 20. I didn't think we should increase that for a reduced lot size.
No.
So I reduced the side yard setbacks from what he suggested in his memo based on our current requirements, and then the reduced lot size, I made it a little smaller to fit for 15 for the 20,000 square foot lots. Otherwise, it would be even there. We're allowing only a 40-foot wide house, so I thought the 15 fit more appropriately for the lot size and the frontage requirement.
That is the amount of space you need to leave between the edge of the house and the edge of the lot, correct?
Yes.
On both sides of the house.
Correct, yeah.
Okay. Do we expect a lot of phosphor developments to have shared septic? I know for the cottage overlay, right, I think there's a large amount of potential there for having shared septic, and having it on the open space I think makes a lot of sense, given what Randall showed us. But I guess I'm still trying to figure out if this is going to be an impactful change, right? If this is going to be used or not. What kind of potential are we looking at here for saving space?
For the lot development size, it reduces the lot in half, so it depends how you design the property and how much of the area you need for the shared septic, which is where Bill's input will come in.
Well, and the big difference is by using the 20,000 square foot lot, then they get the density bonus on top of it. They don't get that otherwise. So they can build more lots than they would legally be allowed to using the standard lot size. And that's the only benefit.
The density bonus wouldn't be allowed for the shared septic. They would still have to provide the provisions of additional open space or affordable housing, or both. But that could be an option that they use to construct the additional units. Because they would have to put the shared septic, it couldn't be within an extra open space area, so they wouldn't get a density bonus for that.
Well, it can't use that open space, I thought
not the required minimum open space. And so we provide a density bonus the way the bylaw is written for open space in addition to that 50% requirement. So they can do that, but that can't contain the shared septic system.
On the additional space, if they go above and beyond, we're saying they can't put the shared septic on that additional open space.
Not for it can't count towards a density bonus the way it's written. But because it reduces the lot size in half, so they have plenty of area to put a shared septic in theory. So they'll get an extra 20,000 square feet of lot to aid in designing the septic system.
Why wouldn't they just take a 40,000 square foot lot and make it 2 and then try to squeeze the shared septic in there? I'm not sure if that made sense.
Yeah, it did. That's why where those questions were raised, how we want to define and restrict the shared septic systems, because we're not sure if we want to allow it for what you just said.
Can you talk to Bill and explain sort of what we're doing and figure out what is the best step for us to send him a list of questions, like, or just to have him come to a meeting?
I think we're I'll pose the questions to him and ask him to come to a meeting. I think that's probably the best. He's our expert on that, and I'll check on his availability.
So he's like building a system like this, and it's impractical given what we're putting on here for restrictions. Then yeah, we don't want to waste it. Right. But we can focus on cottage overlay, shared septic.
Right, and sort of put examples of these lot sizes and configurations in having this conversation with Bill.
Examples would be great. Yeah, I mean a picture that shows like here's a lot, here's what do you want, here's what we've got. Because I'm wondering if we don't allow the shared septic on the above and beyond, like if we're only allowing the bonus for additional open space and not for doing reduced lot size. Like why would anyone want to reduce lot size? Well, it just seems more complicated.
Well, I think the prohibition of septic systems on open space should be very dependent on what type of open space you're dealing with.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's an open field, for example, the intersection of 117 and 110 in the northeast corner, wow, so what? But if it's heavily treed or something like that, it's different. So I think that should be taken into consideration.
Well, so I agree with that it definitely depends on the terrain. So that sort of sounds like we're saying, okay, it's up to the planning board to decide whether the open space can be used as septic. But it seems like the whole design is really going to be dependent on that. And how far down in the process do they want to go if they don't know for sure that we're going to approve that for a design?
No, that's a good point. And again, it might be worth going back to Randall. He's the guy with experience to see what the implications of putting it on open space versus not has on attraction to developers.
But I think a lot of his experience seemed to be more with sewer.
Yeah, that's true.
And he's like, yeah, it's a lot easier if you got sewer. He's like, yep.
Different discussion.
But as I think of sewer, I'm just trying to think why someone would do a reduced lot size.
Exactly. Yeah, especially this is a challenging optimization problem. There's a lot of constraints, and you may not want to try to solve this problem, especially if
Yeah, right there, it's like, well, I can fit it all in a 40,000 square foot lot,
Exactly.
and I don't need to deal with easements and, contracts between houses and blah, blah, blah. I might just find that easier to do. So Pam, maybe we just have a general question, a general discussion with Bill about what is it, does he think it's feasible to have these lot sizes as part of this? I mean, maybe we only talk about shared septic in relation to the cottage overlay, where it's sort of designed for the ground.
I think we'd have an easier time getting it passed if that's what we do, and then the cottage overlay is the other option.
Right, Bob?
No, I mean, things have changed dramatically in terms of the technology associated with particularly leach fields and septic systems, and it may be much more feasible now to have a common system on combined 20,000 foot lots than it has been in the past. I mean, I just think of the lot that is sitting beside the common on the west side. It's a postage stamp, and they legitimately put a septic system in there.
Well, and also, I think we permitted 2 lots on Main Street over toward Stowe on that big parcel. It's a Tough Hill area. I think they had a shared septic.
Yes, they
had.
have.
Yep. Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's. I don't think we're going to be too productive on this one tonight. So let's try to talk to Bill Brookings and whether it makes sense to try to put this into a bylaw here if we think people are going to use it. I think we need to give developers. I think we have to tie the density limits to doing the reduced lot size.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no other way to get the additional units in there.
Yeah. So let's think about that and revisit this one next time. Okay, so let's set the cottage on the side just for a second. So Pam, you had something EOHLC ADU guidelines.
Yeah, I added them with the changes to the housing bond bill and the ADU requirements. EOHLC, which is formerly DHCD, came out with guidelines for implementation, which answered a few questions. Nothing really surprising, but they did define gross floor area, so I think that's really the only thing. I had it in the Google Drive. I'm just pulling it up.
Did it change anything from what we were doing?
No, it didn't change anything. I just suggest we defined floor area as heated livable area in our bylaw. So you were allowed to do 1/3 of the single family home square footage based on the heated livable area. And DHCD requires the ADU restrictions and their definitions be restricted on gross floor area. And they define that as basement, anywhere you can basically stand. So unfinished basements can count. Use the perimeter of the exterior walls. So it's a pretty generous definition.
I'm cautious too. I've always hated the conditional space definition because, it's like, okay, well, I stuck a space heater in my basement. There you go. There's conditional space. Like, who's to say that that's not? So the gross floor area kind of simplifies it for sure. And then since we're capping it anyway, right? Like we're capping the maximum size that this can be. Oh no. So an attached ADU is uncapped, right? So like a detached that we cap.
Right. We have it defined as 1/3 of the heated living area. So we just want to be consistent. I think in reference to the
But
gross
then
floor.
attached accessory dwelling unit.
Right.
I'm fine with that.
So, the cap is not larger than this. Sorry, I'm looking at the definition in here. Wait, so the one that's in
The bylaws in there, we have the accessory dwelling unit. Okay, so this is still detached. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the ADU bylaw, 1030.
Oh, okay. So gross floor area. Here it is. Some areas of all floors of the building, including basements, cellars, mezzanines, intermediate floor tiers, and penthouses of headroom height, measured from the exterior faces of exterior walls, or from center lines of walls separating buildings, but excluding covered walkways, open roofed areas, porches, and similar.
This like the sample from the state.
This is the guideline that they're using to interpret their new ADU definitions.
Okay, I see.
So there was question about how we calculate gross floor area, and the state came out with this guideline on how to interpret the new definitions that are already adopted in MGL.
Penthouse headroom height.
I'm not really sure, because this only applies to single family homes.
So then in the document in there, the ADU
Bylaw,
103124. So how does that change any of this? So we have accessory apartment listed in here. Or are you deleting this? Is that?
Are you looking at the what are you looking at, Mike? I'm
I'm looking at the
confused.
document in the ADU
folder called ADU bylaw.
103124.
No, that's 1031 is the old one.
Okay.
Are you
This
in
is
the
different.
link I sent? Hold on, let me pull it up. I think you're in an older version.
There's a new one dated 12/6.
Yeah, where did it? No, because it's not showing mine either.
So we don't have the one I see. ADU bylaw 103124. December 3rd, 2024 is last modified.
Yes, that's it. Yeah.
So that's the right one?
Yes.
Okay. Alright, so that one.
No, that's not the right one. I don't know what happened with the Google Drive. That file name is dated. Hold on one second.
I see a PDF file that's dated 12/6. See a Word doc.
Checked it and it was in there.
So let's just talk through it real quick. So, the question, does that change anything?
And so, for the attached accessory dwelling unit, we were going to have, so that's what we're calling the large accessory dwelling unit, right? And we are using the gross floor area in that definition.
Yeah, I changed all that to match the state definition, so then the question is how we interpret it. So we're just going to pull that gross floor area definition into our ADU bylaw.
But nothing else changes, and this gives, so for an attached ADU, we don't cap the size, so it's 1/3 of the gross floor area, whatever the building is.
Right. Yeah, but with the state definition, that just got a lot larger, didn't it?
Yeah, it did because we've interpreted it as a living area.
Never capping it anywhere, right? So, I mean, if someone built like just a 10,000 square foot house, they can have whatever. They can still have a really large ADU.
Yeah, but now if you have an unfinished basement, you can count it towards.
But again, it's only for the, like, we don't cap the size of a house, period. Right? So, I mean, if this is an attached part of it, it's just a bigger house. I don't think that's really an issue. We're capping the detached one to keep it from having like a second full-size house on the property. Right?
Yes. But you are allowing, based on the state definition, a larger attached unit.
Right. Yeah. But my point is that you can have as big of a house as you want anyway. So why do we want to restrict that? For tax purposes, are attached ADUs, detached ADUs, how does that work? I'm just curious, like if, are they, I guess they're, how does the property tax work with an ADU? Is it any different than just a regular house? No,
They don't get classified as two-family.
right. And I suspect if you wanted to use it as like a home office, right, you can write off that benefit. But I guess, so we're just sort of discussing whether we, now with this new definition of the gross floor area, are we afraid that our, what we call large ADU is going to be too big? Is that the concern?
No, I just wanted to let you know that the guidance is out there and that it's changed a bit of how we interpret the size of what's permitted. So I think we should just add the gross floor area definition into the bylaw.
Okay, but, getting back to my original point, just an example of absurdity. If you took a house and used the state definition, and now instead of looking at the footprint of the first and second floor, you look at the basement, first, second, and any portion of the attic, and that is walkable. And I assume that is what they mean by penthouse. And you've suddenly almost doubled the size of the available square footage on which to base the size of the ADU.
Only for attached, though.
Right. Yeah, this is only for attached. And so Bob, my counter to that is, okay, well, I'm not going to put an ADU in. I'm just going to build a house that's the original size plus another third, because I can do that.
Yeah, you can do that.
Right? So whether it's an ADU or all just part of the one house unit, it's kind of the same, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I guess what you're looking at is either capping the size of the LADU or changing now that we've got a broader definition of gross floor area, is maybe change that from 1/3 to something else.
That's basically what I'm getting to.
Yeah. So do you have a proposal for that?
Well, I mean, reduce it, in the absurd situation, in extremis, where you almost double the area of the house on which you base the size of the ADU, the LADU. I think you've got to moderate that a little bit by saying, well, we don't want to reduce it by a factor of 2, going from 1/3 to 1/6, but somewhere in between to me makes a little more sense if we're going to use the state definition.
Or we can just put a max on it in general.
Yeah, you do that.
That might be the easier option.
So let's say that we made it, instead of a third, we made it a fourth. And you've got a 4,000 square foot house. Now your maximum size is 1,000, which is 100 square feet bigger than the accessory dwelling unit. So, and again, Pam, we're separating these out because the state said 900 square feet by right. That's
That's it.
allowed.
This is what an ADU is by state law, and you can't amend this definition in any way. So we had to accept the new definition created under Mass General Law into our bylaw for an accessory dwelling unit. But our current bylaw allowed things that were slightly larger, but we couldn't define them the same. We had to create a separate definition for anything in excess of the MGL definition.
So the LADU, again, so this is really what the 1/3 came from our original bylaw, but now we suspect that because the gross floor area has been, again, is bigger, that people could build bigger LADUs.
Right.
I mean, again, I don't have a huge concern either way because if they take the ADU out of it, they can build however big of a house that they want. And so I'm not sure what we're really preventing from people, but I'm certainly open to changing that.
Well, the only thing I can think of is it just allows larger rental properties, that are attached, right? So if the homeowner uses the bigger definition to make a larger LADU and you rent that out, that's kind of the only thing. I think that's fine by me. I don't see a major issue with that.
I mean, so like Pam and Bob said, we can cap that number if people are concerned with it. So I mean, right now we cap detached at 1,200 square feet. We can certainly cap the attached somewhere around there. I don't.
Well, that was kind of defeat the purpose of large, right?
Well, I mean, no, because it still gives an extra 300 square feet.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I don't know. Realistically, how many people are going to go after the extreme case?
We've gotten 2 applications in already.
Oh, really?
Yep, since the bylaw was advertised. One of each.
Oh, yeah? All right.
How large was the attached one?
The attached one was. They have to make some changes. It's about 800 square feet in the basement.
Yeah, I mean, I've said before, I think ADUs are awesome. I wish I had one in our house. That, like, if my mom was down in Virginia, I wanted to bring her up there, like, I would love to have something in the house for her. So I don't really want to restrict too much on what people want to do. And again, I think the it just naturally restricts itself if you had a, 4,000 square foot house, or sorry, let's do a 6,000 square foot house and only do a third of it. 2,000, then you got an 8,000 square foot house, which is
In all our states.
yeah. So, I'm not super concerned. I mean, again, because the fact that we don't cap the square footage of a house, period, they can build whatever they want. This is just, we're really talking about how they subdivide up the space of the house.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it does. I do too. It does increase the diversity, right, a little bit. In the case where you have that 6,000 and 2,000 square foot individual, that's rented out. That's like a, that could be like a home for, a family, right? Oh, I don't think I see a big problem with this without a cap. But if it becomes a problem, I guess we can revisit.
Okay, so let's everyone kind of mull on it. So Pam, you're going to add the gross square footage definition into there.
Yes.
But otherwise, we're pretty close on this one. If we all agree on how we're doing things, then I think we're close here. Okay. Anything else on ADUs? Hey, when you said you advertised, what were you advertising? Just the sorry. I thought you said when you got 2 ADU applications.
Oh, when the state, it's been in the news about the changes and in the newspaper. So once it was advertised, I think people, that's what I meant by advertising. I mean,
And can those people do it by right now, or do they still have to come to us for an SP?
the one in the house can go by right. The detached is just going to wait till February 2nd when the detached is allowed by right, because it is under 900 square feet.
Any update on the floodplain?
Yeah, I had the bylaw in the Google Drive. DCR's floodplain manager is offering assistance to help us review things just to make sure we have everything that they require. This is basically at their request, these revisions.
This is our existing bylaw, and they've asked for revisions to it.
We have to redo it. It was too many. It was one of those too many change kind of things. They wanted specific wording. And submitted a model bylaw of things that they require be included. So those were all incorporated into this. Some of it's the same. A lot of it has changed. We needed to incorporate a purpose with those specific items listed in it. So that's one of the new items. Another thing that's changed was a 100-year flood reference. FEMA's no longer utilizing that because a 100-year storm no longer occurs once every 100 years. So they create a new definition, and that those references were taken out of what they require. And then we just reference they do it by base flood.
Storms now.
No, they go by elevation, so they defined it by increase. Defined it.
Are there any maps available online?
They are.
Could you send us the link to that?
Yeah, there's not a link. I'll send you the panel numbers.
Oh, okay.
And only half of them were revised for Bolton, so some of them are old. So we're only going to reference the dates and not the panel numbers anymore because they're subject to change.
Okay, so do we need to discuss anything on this, or are you just saying this is just
this is what they're requiring for us?
guidelines?
Yeah, this is. they created model bylaws and they're requiring this information be accepted by each town. So we basically incorporated all the requirements that they had.
And is this gonna affect future building in town, do we know?
It hasn't changed much as far as what's required. I didn't notice any changes in the flood map areas either. That for the things they revised, they were reevaluated, but everything seems consistent with what we currently have.
So the maps haven't changed much? Wow.
Not much, no. I didn't notice anything just by putting them side by side on a screen. I couldn't overlay the layers, but they seem relatively consistent.
So do you need us to do anything with this for now?
I wanted to let you know I'm going to send it off to the floodplain manager just to make sure it meets all the FEMA requirements. And if she has any comments, I'll let you know. It's in the Google Drive if you want to take a look at it. That FEMA website is very difficult to use. I have a tutorial I can send. It's kind of like snapshots of screens with instructions, and it's
Like most things that start with an F.
yeah. They don't make it user friendly, that's for sure.
Okay. And so you said we're gonna get a grant for that, or someone offered to?
No, that an employee in DCR is a floodplain management specialist, and they've offered to assist all communities who haven't adopted this model yet to make sure they meet all the requirements from FEMA.
Okay.
So
The last
she
time
has.
we amended this, oh sorry, the last time we amended this was 2011. Is that correct? On the top of the document, that's what it says.
I have a 2014 reference in here.
Just the very top of the document says that it was last.
Yeah, I think there were some amendments in 2014. There's a couple
I see
notations.
there.
Yeah.
Okay, yep. Okay. Alright, so just let us know if you need what you need on this.
Okay. If you're interested, I'll put the directions to use the FEMA website along with their panel numbers and map location. I'll put it all in the Google Drive so it's together.
But it sounds like it hasn't been a significant change.
Nothing I could. So I just used our GIS system that we have on the website and compared it to the new FEMA maps, and they all look relatively similar. I didn't see any differences, but I wasn't able to overlay anything.
Whatever, it doesn't get smaller.
No, it's definitely not smaller.
Our house is still underwater.
Hopefully just on the map.
1938, it was underwater.
So, that means the cottage overlay district. Wanna bring that one up here?
I have too many things open. I gotta close.
What are your thoughts on putting together presentations for town meeting and public hearings on cottage overlay and the phosphor?
Yeah, so cottage overlay for sure. We can put lots of, examples of other developments that have happened and kind of what we're looking to
to encourage with this. You know, and then have like the key points about it, like you know, square footage, number of units in any given development, that sort of stuff. Just kind of because it's such a long bylaw that we want to, you know, give people just like a really quick overview to understand what we're trying to do. But having, you know, sample references that would be similar in scope to what we're proposing, you know, size-wise from other towns would be great. As far as the phosphorus, depending on, I mean, so the phosphorus really could just be pretty much the same as before, increasing the open space and being clearer about the design process. I mean, if you don't do the 20,000 square foot lot sizes, then it really just becomes a tweak to the existing one, right? Yeah. So that one should be process. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So just kind of having a more thorough design process. And Pam, the phosphorus would also only require a majority vote because that's housing production.
Correct.
Yeah. So I think that. Yeah. I mean, there's nothing controversial with phosphorus. I don't think so. No. If we get into the 20,000, even that, like, I don't think most people care if we had 20,000 square foot and shared septic. I mean, that's sort of, that's going to be over most people's heads. But cottage, we want to think about, you know, where we fell down last time we proposed this and try to handle things better. Was there feedback from people on the last time around? The questions that came up the most were around water usage. People concerned about the amount of water that any one of those developments would use. And again, maybe having that 100 number in there that we did, maybe that scared people off. I mean, we didn't have a great answer to it, even though, you know, like most developments in town, it's a closed loop system. We don't have sewer, so any water that gets drawn from the site gets discharged back onto it. And you know, Bob, you talked at one point, like I certainly don't know anything about this. I don't know how long it takes the water that you draw from an aquifer, potentially, you know, 200 feet down, to get recharged from surface level septic as that water goes back, it makes its way back into the water tank. At some point, it makes its way back down there, but I don't know, you know, how long it takes. I think trying to address that would be very difficult. I think it's simply that, in fact, that's going to occur, that you are recharging at the same rate that you're withdrawing. But depending on the soil conditions, rock conditions, cracks, all sorts of things, to try to come up with those suggestions will be rebutted, you know, ad nauseum. I think if it's certain. But yeah, I'm just saying that the water, any water drawn out from the aquifer eventually gets recharged to the septic. Yep.
I also, knowing that we discussed that in the past, I also included something that said that the stormwater volume discharge from the site cannot be increased.
Right.
But that's going to have a significant impact on the area required for stormwater treatment.
Yep. Sorry, say that once more, Pam?
There's a provision, I know that you mentioned the water usage was, the drawdown of the water was an issue, so I didn't know if including a statement which required a prohibition of increasing the volume of stormwater discharge from the site would be helpful, so I added that into this draft.
Like what, discharging it into rivers kind of stuff? You can't
No.
do that anyway. Yeah.
No, you can't discharge it into rivers, so under the stormwater standards, you're allowed to increase the amount of water that you discharge from your site, but you just can't increase the rate of flow which it discharges. So I prohibited increasing the volume of water that discharges from the site, which means it would have to be retained and absorbed interior to the site, which would increase your areas required for stormwater management.
So infiltration basin, that sort of stuff.
Correct, yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense because that is not an insignificant amount. And incidentally, that is a counter argument to DEP's assertion that public sewer systems are the best way of managing water simply because you have control over what goes into a septic field. The counter argument to that is that if all of the water from an entire section of the town goes into a single septic area, hence recharge, it doesn't distribute the recharge to the overall aquifer. So there are lots of discussions about that. So I think your point is well taken that if we have septic systems for recharge in lots or in shared systems, and we limit the amount of stormwater leaving the site as a minimum in volume, I think we're addressing the water issue.
Well, and Bob, you talked about like there are methods or are there maps of aquifers, and it's like, do we take that into account when people propose a development in on a specific road or a specific parcel? Like, is that?
Yes and no. Yes, there are maps of aquifers, but significant aquifers in Bolton are limited to 3 areas and not generally over the whole area. There is an enormous database that the state keeps of every well that's drilled since the 50s, I believe. So it gives you a sense of where the water table is, but not much beyond that.
And so the point being, like, if you want to have, like, I think random even, it kind of felt like a throwaway line, but section H, the hydrological water balance design.
I think addressing it that way is very important.
Yeah. Probably take off that last line about all homes should be equipped with water-saving faucets, showers, and toilets. I mean, I imagine that's just, we don't need to even call that out. That's just what I mean by it. So, yeah, so I'll limit down.
Regulate you have to enforce. I'd like to know how we're going to do that.
You can't regulate that through zoning. It's not permitted.
Yeah, so that's what I think we should remove that. So, I guess my point is that this section H, yes, there you go, right there. This is what our rebuttal to everyone's concerns at the last town meeting was. And the question is that enough? Or do we need to have something in there about some sort of water usage study or water resources study will be done. I don't know. So, like a good example, when they put that, Pam, you might know this, as part of this apartment that they're building, like that's all, they're drilling wells for that, and they have to, provide water for hundreds or 1,000 potential residents in there.
Two people per bedroom is what they're required to account for.
And how many units is this?
There's 229 units, but I don't recall the bedroom count off the top of my head.
Yeah. let's say somewhere between 500 and 1,000 people. And the number isn't super important. It's mostly the fact that like they need to know that they have enough water for all those people. Right? Do they have to do any sort of like extensive testing about could that area support, do they drill test wells and does that support a certain recharge rate from the well?
That we didn't see. Those are all permitted through DEP.
Okay.
We don't have
That
jurisdiction
information
over
is
that.
also available online.
As part of their application to the state.
Well, any public water supply regulated by DEP, that information is generally available.
All I'm really kind of getting at is like, if residents have concerns about, hey, we're going to have a 10-acre cottage with, potentially 40 houses on it. I would counter that that's nothing compared to we're supporting a gigantic apartment in another part of town. So I would say it shouldn't be an issue, but I want to have more than just that.
Yeah. Well, that apartment building's sitting on an aquifer too, by the way. One quick comment. So I feel like these, by the way, I do agree. I just kind of want to put on my, see if I can come up with a plausible argument, for somebody who might have a concern. But I think this section here addresses the long-term water usage, right? What about short-term, right? So in cases of drought or where there isn't a lot of, natural replenishment of the aquifer, right? Could there be an issue in the short term for neighboring properties? Is that still a question that can be raised during the meeting?
So that was the specific question that was raised. Is people were saying, hey, if someone builds one of these things next to my house, are they gonna suck up all my water? And it's a legit question. I just don't exactly know how to answer.
Yeah. What we have here, I think, not discharging water through water bodies and rivers and things, having it all return back to the property as a closed system. That addresses the long-term usage.
Yeah.
Yes. Right. So
it doesn't take 50 years for that water to make its way back down to an aquifer. I just have no idea.
Right. Right. I think that's what we want to be prepared for. Is
100%. And that's why I'm saying, like, I'd like to beef up this section a little bit more with some sort of science or whatnot that says, yep, that's fine.
And I think that's doable. The studies we did for water and sewer for the master plan over the last, frankly, 10 years, looking at both gravel wells and hard rock wells, there have been no failures, to the best of my knowledge, and all of the well drillers in the state that we've talked to. And with the hard rock wells, they're so far below the water table, it doesn't make much difference.
So that was one of my questions was, like, I mean, are they just, I assume it's the state that governs wells and, like the depth of, if I, wanted to build a house on, a property right now, just a parcel of land, is there a minimum depth I need to drill to, or is it just you drill to when you hit water and then you're done?
Yeah, the latter, but it generally is well beyond that. What's happening is that because the water coming out of cracks in cracked rock for hard rock wells is relatively small, what happens is they dig incredibly deep wells. You hear about these 400-foot wells in Boulder. And the reason for that is to provide a reservoir rather than having a huge tank that you're slowly filling. So well depth doesn't have very much at all to do with where the groundwater level is.
requiring it. So as part of this bylaw, it would require a minimum well depth in order to mitigate people's concerns. Would that make any sense?
We don't have any authority to do that.
No, and I'm not sure it makes any sense. I mean, every well in Bolton, you can go back and look at the database, and I can dig it up. I mean, I'm sure Pam can get at it as easily. But the wells are way below the water table. You know, they indicate distance to rock, distance to water table, and then the depth of the well. The latter is way below both of the above.
You mean for new houses or just for most people?
Oh, for anything that's been drilled in the last 50 years.
So I'm looking at the last work I had done on my well. They wrote that my well depth is 120 feet plus or minus. That's all I know.
Mine's 150. And the reason for that is a combination of being able to get infusion from cracked rock and a reservoir for water when you use a lot.
So Bob, I think you answered this question. I mean, this year, past couple of years, it's been pretty dry, and with some of the new developments in the area, have there been any problems with neighboring housing around these new developments that you know of?
Well, I haven't looked at that in the last 18 months. I think it might be worthwhile to talk to the gravel well drillers, the people who do the shallow stuff, as well as the hard rock drillers, and see if they've had any problems. The only problems I've heard about have been problems because there has been iron and other buildup in the cracked rock. And this is strange to hear in the water world, but they've been fracking water wells in Bolton in order to open up the cracks more. But that has precious little to do with the availability of water. But Florida has been breaking.
Board of Health was ultimately inspect wells or properties. Is that?
Well, when they're built, yeah. And again, that information is available, but the most pertinent information in terms of what Jim has brought up with the drought is to talk to well drillers. There are only, probably 4 or 5 that deal with Bolton at all. And they're pretty old. I'll tell you.
I mean, do you think anyone would come back and say, well, we haven't seen anything yet, even though the new development there, those apartment buildings, is in an aquifer? I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I'd be saying, I'm thinking to myself, going, what's going to happen 4 or 5 years down the road from now once that place is established and going? What's that going to, that is a low spot. Or is it a low spot in Bolton, that whole area?
Which one, Jim?
The new apartment buildings that are going in.
540 Main Street? Yeah, 580 Main Street Road. Yeah, that's an aquifer.
Yeah, anyway, we can say everything we want, but people in town, because they have, they have a vote on this, might say again, well, that's not enough. What Jim's saying is that they're like, oh, hey, that apartment's gonna suck up all the water from our aquifer, and then, we're gonna have none left. And so, I mean, if we could have something in here that said, there was some sort of study that we were able to do to validate the site supported the proposed number of houses from a water point of view. And so what it sounds like you're saying, Bob, is it's not exactly simple or possible.
No, it's not. You look to neighboring towns that have done similar developments and there any data we can gather from this? You can't show that it's comparable to bulk. Yeah. I mean, we're in a glacial area, and it varies all over the place. We have hard rock. We have surface geology that changes all over the place in Bolton. We have glacial till in areas where people have. Our well is 11 feet deep, and we've never run out of water. And it's 230 years old. Clear and clean. I joke about getting that go too.
But no. Well, I mean, Bob's right. I actually have two wells on my property. One is 150 feet deep. And the other one, I can open the cover. It's a shallow well. There's water. It's incredible. Yeah.
In any case, I think it would be.
Why don't we start with Bill and see what advice he has?
I mean, all we really want is like I don't think anyone's gonna, bust out the groundwater maps at town meeting. We just want to have something to reassure people and say, I think the first part is a closed loop system plus additional water recharging from stormwater. Like, right, so we're putting more in than we take out. So that's one thing. That's good. And then the other one is just to address Austin's concern, which again was the concern brought up last time, is that what about the short-term impacts on neighboring properties until the loop, so to speak, recharges. If we can find some kind of good succinct answer on that, like a little techie sounding, not too much, I think that'd be perfect. Yeah, I think there is some value in finding other neighboring towns, and developments as well. There is variability from town to town,
I don't think we're going to find a whole lot on the well information, honestly.
No, but I mean, I guess the question is, would they require any sort of, hydrological study? Is that a thing that other towns do? I mean, you do perk tests. Every
That's the only way to do it, yeah.
Yeah, well, every property has a perk test for septic, but they don't do something similar to establish that there's sufficient water.
Well, ironically, a perk test is a pretty good indication of rapid recharge.
Yeah. I mean, so I threw out a number of 50 years because I have no idea. Is it 50 years? Is it 1 year? Is it 5 years? I mean, on average, there's so many different soil types. You can different sand. It's a lot quicker. If it's clay, it can take the best case, not including your 11-foot well.
I don't have any experience with this, but I can say that usually wells like this are pretty local. And they act like you're not going to lower the table. So the area for one well is already based on the recharge rate. Like you do 100 feet, is the recharge rate good? Do I need to go deeper? It's usually like a chronicle thing. Like if you're 100 feet deep, it affects 100 feet out, kind of. Plus or minus.
So we'll try to put some better wording around that, just since we know that was the pain point. So let's just kind of go back on this one. And we don't need to go too deep on this one tonight. I think last meeting we discussed removing the bedroom requirements from it, and limiting the square footage, reducing the square footage, and not calling out the number of bedrooms that were in there. Those are kind of, and to me, those are the things that are driving the whole project, right? So, people are free to build whatever structure they want, 2,000 square foot structure, if they want big bedrooms, small bedrooms, whatever, they can leave it up to them to decide.
I don't like that, honestly. We discussed it. The FAR, yeah, I like the maximum size. I think it better matches the intent of the bylaw.
Sorry. Say that again, Pam. So I don't like.
I like the maximum dwelling unit size better myself. I think it better meets the intent of the bylaw. I just did
That's what I'm
some.
saying. Like, that's what you said, right? Yeah. Right. So we're moving the minimum bedroom size. Right. So earlier we were saying you had to cap these at 1 or 2 bedrooms.
Okay. Sorry, I thought you meant we were also discussing restricting the building area based on the size of the lot, so a FAR type of restriction. Eric had mentioned that specifically, I think.
What's FAR? What is an FAR restriction?
Floor to area ratio, so your area of square footage that you're allowed to develop is based on the square footage of the lot size rather than just one standard maximum.
Are you saying that's a better way to do it?
No, I didn't think so. I liked removing the bedroom size and keeping the maximum.
Yeah. I mean, say that again. No, we agree with that. No, I agree with that. I think we should put that.
Yeah, that's the way it's written.
Yep. So we're moving the one, and again, Pam, as we're doing this, like, you can feel free to, not just strike out, but delete the wording. It gets complicated to read through the docs when like half of it's strike out font. So I think we're all in agreement here that we remove the restriction on the maximum number of bedrooms for the units. Right. So we place no restriction on that. We will restrict the square footage. And this one says no dwelling unit shall exceed 2,000 square feet of living space. Is that gross floor space? Maybe we should be consistent with that. Okay. And does that definition apply to this as well? Well, no. This is whatever definition we want to give. But right now, so I'm looking at up in this is section E standards. This is on page. I can never read the page. Page 2. Point C. So that's where we had. So keep going down a little bit. Okay. Yeah, right there. So section C, right? So we're saying 2,000 square feet of living space. Okay, that's fine, right? That's what you agreed to. Well, but I mean, is it gross floor area or this living space? I assume living space is some definition of condition space or whatever is in.
We'll have to put it in the bylaw. There's no living space definition in the bylaw.
Like when, so my house is 1,912 square feet. Like that's what it lists on Zillow. Everything that I've ever seen of my house that's what it is. I've never gone through and like added up all of my rooms. I don't know what that. I assume that doesn't include at least half of the unfinished basement. I have a half finished basement. I don't know if it includes that or not. You can check your property card, probably, right? What a property card is that?
The assessing office. It has a layout of your house and the square footage and type of each finished area.
Okay. Well, that's something I never did.
It's what your tax bill's based off of, so.
I recommend checking that because if that's wrong, you're paying 40 years of taxes on the loss. That's okay. That's definitely 20 years too late on that one.
I apologize. I have to run. Is that okay?
Yeah, no worries, Jim. I think we didn't. So Pam, the meeting minutes. I didn't see those in the packet. So
I have them done. I didn't get them done on Friday, but I have them. They're done. I just have to distribute them.
All right. Thanks, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. We'll talk to you later.
Yep.
Okay. So 2,000 square feet living space. We need to put a definition around that. We took out all of the 55 plus stuff. Again, we were all in agreement with.
I did leave that section B right above this one, Pam. That if it's age restricted, I mean, that doesn't matter about that.
If it is, it doesn't matter, really.
I mean,
It's saying not to do part 55 and over and mix the type of housing.
that's 100% should be restricted.
I think the intent of that is to make sure that you don't have a mix of 55 and over and unrestricted
Mm-hmm.
in one development, that it's all either one or the other.
Okay. What does that all need to say about it? Yeah, so I think Eric just said, why do we care? Is it?
If it's mixed,
If it's mixed, you're going to have a lot of doubts.
yeah, that doesn't usually bode well. I don't think any. Maybe people would
Mixed is
propose
just
that, but
mixed is just a regular neighborhood, I guess, right? Right. Subdivide it out or something like that.
Well, I mean, if you're, yeah, I guess the question is, do you care if people are age restricting some or all of the units? And we aren't giving them any, we're getting no additional benefit for age restricting this anymore. So if they said, hey, we want to age restrict half of these units, why would that matter to us?
Just harmony, I guess.
It's not our business. I don't feel like it's our business to generate harmony or whatever they can sell. I don't want to force them to over 55 if they want to do half over 55.
Yeah, but I guess they could subdivide the property and do what they want to do anyway, right?
I mean, I don't think it's our. I mean, we're trying to get like a type of housing. I don't think it's our business to say who they sell to or not. I don't feel like we need to mention it at all.
they can take it out. I don't think it matters much.
Yeah, I would be surprised if someone wouldn't do mixed. Right?
Mallard Lane did it.
That one. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why.
That's not that many units, is it?
It's only 6, yeah. 4 are age restricted and 2 are not.
So weird. Maybe they got a tax benefit for it or something.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, like I don't know. So 4 are 55 plus and 2 aren't. Like, whatever. That's their problem.
Okay, I'll delete it.
You know, delete it, but I would ask that question of MEPC to see what their experience has been with age-restricted mixed developments.
We're not preventing them from age restricting. We're just saying you get no benefit. Like, you aren't getting a benefit for age restricting.
Yeah, we took that out.
Yeah, so forget it. No, you're right. What's the point?
Less is more.
Yeah. Besides which, as Eric said, we're trying to get mixed neighborhoods, right?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the more words, the more somebody can latch on to something. And that's exactly right. Yeah, if we can make this a one-pager, man, that'd be great.
And also a precedent.
Yeah. So we're gonna pull out the ADA requirements.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so that one's still there. So you can delete that.
Is it? Should
It's
it be?
on page 3 towards the top.
I really hate using Google Drive.
I had never used Google like G Suite before. my current company that I've been at for like 7 years or so, and it's like I would die without it at this point. I'm so dependent on it for everything. I'll get rid of that. So we talked about the cap last week, and this is where we had some confusion on. So in subsection H, right there, we had initially meant that to be 100 total units in town, which is
Yeah, that should be gone. Is it
that
not?
should be nope, second, that's right above the ADA one.
Just out of curiosity, why did we get rid of I as well? I missed that.
So the ADA one. So last meeting we discussed, like, again, it's like we don't need to dictate with that sort of specificity what people want to sell. And a lot of these sort of developments get built on spec anyway, where like they start building and then they start selling pre-built units to people. And if someone, if another family or person wants to says like, hey, I want to have ADA compliant stuff in here, they can choose to do that. But I don't think we should necessarily mandate it as part of this. And this kind of goes back to just Eric's point that I agree with. Is that when we just want to build housing, right? And it's like we'll let people decide what sort of housing they want to build and buy.
Yeah, and if we're not going to help make this decision.
Yeah. If people see a big need, if the builder says, hey, like I'm getting lots of other people here, and I'm going to make better accessible single floor housing, great, let them do it. We don't need to specify it and then again somehow go in and enforce it.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Yeah, we don't want to put so many regulations in here that it's just unbuildable.
Yeah. And want people to build, right? Yeah.
So we pulled out that cap, but we did talk about capping somewhere else, right? So we were going to.
Yeah, I wasn't. We didn't come up with anything. I wasn't really certain how to.
I thought we said that we would monitor it, and if it looks like it was going out of control, then we would do it.
Well, I thought we said we were gonna like put a maximum like 20 acres or a maximum plot size or something. But then I think somebody brought up that then they could just split the lot into two and then do together. Yeah.
Yeah, we did discuss that.
But restricting the number of units on any given parcel, I thought we were going to come up with a number for that. Based on, I think we have to have that.
To replace the 100 unit maximum there?
Yeah.
Okay. But how do we address Eric's concern that somebody just subdivides it then? Yeah.
Well, so that's why if we cap the number of units in any given project.
Then you just permit them separately, but.
Yeah. But I don't think it would come to that, but.
Yeah, I thought ultimately we said there's not going to be like a huge.
Well, I thought that we said that we would monitor it, and if it looked like it was going out of control.
I guess I just want to make people feel comfortable. If somebody's going to go through the efforts to subdivide and do two of them, like, we don't have to bring that up in the bylaw. I guess that's a loophole in the bylaw. But, like, if we're just trying to make people feel comfortable that it could be so big.
Then we'll put a maximum acreage on it?
Or, I don't know, or maximum units, 60 units, 40 units, I don't know who want a number at all. Or if we just do the monitor base, I don't know. I think we need to have a number in there.
cumulative total number.
Yeah, so that was, that number,
Be such a large number. Having it be such a large number is going to be quite,
exactly.
and 100 units now, so.
Right, the 100 was over the entire town. That was the confusing thing that we did.
Another thing was restricting it from being one development, so. And so if we want to make some, I don't know what the number is. I don't know if it's 20 acres. Yeah, so that'd be like 10 acres with the max density 40 or. Yeah. So what is 10 acres? What's the maximum someone can build on 10 acres? Is it 40 per acre? So 40? I don't know. That's yeah.
I think we reduced that.
Oh, it's like 2 times or 3 times. Is that right?
Yeah, and because we took out the 55 and over, so that we changed 4 to 3 for 55 and over, and it was twice the density for all others. So we have it in there as twice, 2 times.
We were gonna, yeah. The density was gonna increase the smaller you made the house.
No, we didn't do that. That's the FAR thing. It gets a little.
Well, I thought we were talking about two tiers. Like if you build whatever 2,200 or 2,000 square feet, you get 2x. If you build 1,800, yeah, 1,300, whatever the number is. I don't know if that's like a good approach or not, but that's kind of what we were talking about. Like, that was how we made density bonus. Yeah, that was.
Yeah,
So you don't think that's a good way to do it, Pam?
we didn't do it that way. But
We
that's.
talked about it.
Yeah, no, that's what I included. I made a 1 to 8 FAR, and it came up with 2,500 square feet per dwelling unit for a 10-acre lot.
I don't understand FAR stuff. I don't get it. Like, I thought we were just talking about the dwelling unit size and putting a number.
Yeah, so say you have a 10-acre lot, we have to put 5 of it into open space, so you have 5 developable, and you set an FAR limit, which will restrict your square footage per dwelling unit based on the buildable area you have to work with.
Was that Randall's suggestion?
No, it's just a standard kind of planning thing.
So let's work with that. So 10 acres, 5 of it goes aside. So we're saying that the standard development on 10 acres would be 5 houses, right? So, because 2-acre lots or whatever. Yes. Yeah. So then we would say 2 times if you build a certain size, which would give you 10 units. Or I thought we were going to do like a 3 times or a 4 times if it's even smaller.
If the dwelling unit is smaller.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know how you would. So you want to set.
Lots, right?
What's that?
We're not really talking about lots here.
Right.
No.
These are
Right.
individual lots, right? So
What we talked about last time was basically, okay, it's like if you build 2,000 square foot houses, then you can do X number. If you do 1,800 or 1,600 square foot houses, you can do 2X or whatever, like that. So I don't know if that's the same thing as FAR. I mean, all we're really saying is like if you build smaller houses, you can have more of them. Like that was how we're given the density bonus. Does that make sense, Pam?
Yeah, but I don't know how else to.
How we say that? Well, unless you have categories of size.
Yeah, that's why I thought the area would be the best way to do it, and you just give them a square footage of what.
I think what Dan's doing here, this is a continuous. This is like a continuous thing rather than a discrete thing, right?
If you said a discrete thing, you're gonna get something right at, everyone's gonna go right at that limit, higher, that limit to get the density bonus. So you wanna,
That's what we want, right?
Well, within reason.
yeah, I don't know, we need to,
No, I mean, that's we cap the. I mean, I think we cap the number of units in any one development, right? So, and then provide the density bonus to to give them more units up to that.
Does the maximum on so I guess what you're saying is we should have a maximum that is reasonable, such that minimum, housing size is like actually feasible. Like we set the upper bound based upon the lower limit.
The upper bound of the number of units, or the upper bound of the square footage.
The upper bound of the number of units, which we can back up the density bonus from that.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't know exactly how big. I think it makes a difference whether it's a 10-acre parcel or a 20-acre parcel. Like that affects it. But so Pam, when you're talking about the FAR stuff down there, and you're saying 25,000 square foot of area, that's like the lot size you're talking about, right?
no, building area for the site. So as a 1 to 8,
So that's total aggregate building area?
yeah, I thought that's,
Or like what? One unit that has multiple units in it? Is that?
no, it's for you to build on the house as you see fit with the parameters in the bylaw.
Yeah, so you could do, 10, 2,500 square feet houses, or, 20 of, 12, 15 square foot, which is too small, but
Right, so it gives you a density bonus automatically for constructing smaller units because you get additional units.
that's a pretty logical way to go.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So you set a square footage of building area and then they determine
How to do that.
Like total square footage of building. Yeah, we don't really think in those terms.
well, we can word it more restrictive. I just wanted to give you an idea of what a 10-acre site would do. Yeah,
I see what you're saying, and it makes sense. Like, so you give them a total number that's buildable, and then it's up, they can decide what they want to do with it.
yeah, we'll set a I think you should set a minimum, you have to produce at least this many units, but if you want to do smaller, you can do more units.
How'd you come up with that 25,000 square foot number for a 10-acre? What's that?
So 5 acres for building area, so you can get 10 units at the 1 to 8 square foot of FAR. And you can change that to meet your needs, but you take the square footage and divide it by that you have of your buildable area and divide it by 8. So for every square foot of land, you get 1/8 of square foot of building area, if that makes sense.
So, say for instance, say if it was 2,000 square foot units on 10 acres, they get roughly 12 or 13 units if they were 2,000 square feet.
Yeah. Or you can get more if you make smaller units.
Right. You could get 25 of them if they were thousands. Is that 1/8? Did you just come up with that out of your head, or is that some standard number?
Well, I just played with the numbers to see how it would be compared to the 2,000 we were discussing.
Are you recommending that we don't? Do we still keep the 2,000 square foot cap? I don't think we want to. Are you saying?
You can still do that.
Okay.
For a dwelling unit, and then they get. So we can play with the numbers.
If they're smaller as well, we get more.
Yeah.
why do you should, so you're saying it's kind of like leaves it up to the builder, gives it a little bit more play to the builder versus say 2,000 square foot you get 2x and 200 you get 3x.
Yeah, you base the living area that they provide on the acreage of the property.
And then I think Austin said this, it allows you to like build a few 1,500 square foot and like kind of like a range of units.
It's just a thought. It's not, I don't know how.
It makes sense. I mean, because it doesn't give you the next size.
Yeah, that makes a lot of
some
sense.
bigger and some smaller.
But I think we should say like the minimum number of units would have to be, I don't know, whatever, 2 times, well, so the land, per time the original number, like on this 10-acre lot, the original number is 5 units, right? So a standard development could build 5 houses.
A standard phosphor can build 5 units on that
Yeah.
10 acres.
So we could pay the minimum, let's say 2x or something. I don't know, something like that. I don't know what the number is, but maybe we want to
There
figure
are
out.
people that use this as a sneaky phosphorus.
That has to be some minimum number of units. But this basically adds to phosphorus though, right? But the benefit is the density bonus. So if they're not going to use the density bonus. Yeah.
No, but I mean, because we're capping the square footage of the house, that's the biggest reason why no one would use this if they were thinking about phosphorus.
That's right.
Okay, we're going late. I like that thought. So Pam, maybe if you can write that up a little bit more in the questions.
Yeah.
Another thing, so we called out parking requirements, and then we sort of tied those to 1-bedroom units, 2-bedroom units, blah blah blah. Like, I think I'd be in favor of having just not putting parking requirements in there at all, and let them deal with it. Do you have thoughts on that? I know this is like a big thing, like Cambridge and Somerville are removing all the parking requirements for new housing. Do you see a problem if we don't have that, or at least?
I think we should have some parking. We're just not there. I think they'll do it anyway just because of the market requirement. People will want the parking, but.
But do we need to call out, minimums for it, I guess?
When you get into when you get into duplexes and where we allow the duplexes, maybe we should, just so there's not. We don't want to encourage parking in the street, I guess is my.
Well, I mean, if we say no street park, I don't know. Do we say no street parking? Do we say that now?
Maybe you can mix up driving lanes and save your time tomorrow. No, that's running.
Okay, well, think about that. Again, we need to update it for the bedrooms since we're not really calling that out.
Okay.
Okay. Let's try to wrap this up though. Is there any other kind of quick points on this? Let's just kind of keep working on it.
All right. I'll get more detail into the FAR because you seem to like that idea and set some minimum and maximums associated with it, and write it as more of a bylaw. But I'll keep it on a separate page so we can incorporate it if we want or not.
And examples in there would be awesome.
Okay.
Did you want to talk about the Permit Extension Act, Pam?
That was, yeah, sure. That was more of an FYI kind of thing. The governor enacted a Permit Extension Act, which grants automatic approvals for people that have approved projects between the dates of January 1st, 2023 and January 1st, 2025. So if we have anything that is not started construction and is set to expire, they get an automatic 2-year extension.
So nothing we really need to do on it. Just this increase allows people who are permanent but haven't started projects more time to work on.
Correct.
Okay. Last thing is our calendar for next year. So, if we move back to the second and fourth Wednesdays, that would give us January 8th and January 22nd. Do those dates work for everybody?
I might not be available for the 8th. Coming back from vacation.
Everyone else good with that?
Yeah, I mean, the days are fine. For January, I'll be.
Yeah. Eric, I was gonna say, so Eric is requesting meetings to start at 7:30. I'm okay with that. I don't know if that works for other people. I mean, that's all virtual. Maybe it doesn't matter as much, but initially, our meetings for history, our meetings used to always start at 7:30, and they would run so long that we decided to start them at 7 instead. I'm really trying to keep our meetings, under 2 hours and even shorter when possible. So,
Just keep it. It's just keep it at 7. I don't want to make people's nights later, but I'm gonna be late for the next month or so.
I mean, I don't know, maybe people prefer a 7:30 start if they're finishing up dinner or dealing with kids or whatever. The floor is open if people have preferences either way. I don't care. I'm good with either one.
In general, I prefer 7:30, but I'll find at 7 if that's what everybody wants. I'm just gonna wait.
Anyone have comments, preferences?
7:30 is fine with me. Fine with me too.
Yeah, is that okay with you?
Sure.
So let's always do January 8th, January 22nd. Let's do those at 7:30. I think that's all. Do we have anything else that we need to discuss? I think this is it's our last meeting before the New Year, so anything we should catch up on, know about, Pam?
I don't think so. I think that was about it. The only bylaw we have left to tackle is the signage. So we'll have a draft of that for the next meeting.
Is there anything coming up, for that January meeting?
No, we have a A&R, which should be fairly simple. We have someone coming in about putting a warehouse type use at 41 Main Street, which is in the industrial zone. It's been a vacant building for quite some time. It's just a small portion of the vacant smaller building in the back. There's 2 buildings. One up front is larger, and then there's one behind that that's smaller in size. So it would be for the back portion, the smaller building.
The Common building?
I'm sorry, I don't
I'm
know.
not gonna know what that is.
Yeah. Well, is it the one on the south side of 117 or north side?
South.
Side. Okay. Well, which way? I didn't realize they had 2 different addresses because I thought it was 58 Main Street. I thought maybe I got that wrong. But, okay, so that's the south side. But south side's not in there.
Yeah, maybe I have something going there. That's been vacant for a while. Okay, anything else that people want to talk about? No? All right. With that, I will make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy New Year, everyone. Have safe and fun holidays, and we'll meet back up in January.
Thank you.
All right, well,